My name is Tanaka. My pronouns are he and they. I'm an international spoken word artist. Growing up for me as a queer, black, masculine individual who didn't have the language to express myself, my childhood, regardless of those things, was a magical experience. I think I was very lucky and very blessed to have women in my life who protected me and sheltered me and loved me, aggressively. You know what I'm saying? Despite how protective and how much they stopped the fun of childhood, they also brought so many sweet memories. I think a pivotal moment would be coming out, right? Being 15 and finding out that, like, oh, there's a word that describes how I feel that is outside of the language I already had. I think I only found out what like a lesbian was when I was like 14. And that was because everyone kept calling me it in school. And I was like, what? No, never me. That word never felt comfortable. That word never felt like it was the way to describe myself. And then when I found out there was a word called transgender, I remember coming out on like Snapchat. Yeah, I mean, 2 days after finding that word, going to my mum and saying, here's who I am, and I feel safe enough to share that with you due to, the love you've shown me. And then that being a situation that didn't turn out the way I wish it had. I was so naive. You grow up and all you have is love. And then you realize there are conditions. Really was a moment of like, if my mom can't love me as who I am, how can I expect the world to? And I think that's come with years now of like having our back and forths and going through things that no child should have went through. But us being able to have a space where we can have conversations now and being able to tell her, this is who I am, and I'm going to push her back against the wall at this point, and it's going to be super uncomfortable, right? Coming from an African culture where these things are demonized. But it's forced her to have to do the work of realizing, is the love she's giving me enough with all these conditions? I accredit the only reason I'm alive today being the fact that I had amazing friends who, the minute I said my pronouns are he, they got on it. I had one guy come up to me and he was like, so Tanaka, right? Tanaka, that's the name. That's the name we're going with. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, great, awesome. I'm so proud of you. And it was like, especially coming from a cisgendered heterosexual man, it was like, here's this man who's affirming me. So I think the validation came from having amazing people, strangers even, who were like, thank you for sharing your story. For every message I got that was crude and disgusting, I got 10 more that were, that's amazing. You look so good. Or like, I had people from secondary school messaging me being like, I always knew. I'm so happy you're who you are now. But I had one girl in particular message me and she was like, when everyone was calling you a lesbian, I knew it wasn't it. She never had the language either, right? To even be like, hey, are you this? Right? And sometimes I think I'm like, if someone had come up to me during secondary school and said, here's this word, there are some people that use it and they look like this and they've transitioned, would I have been able to come to terms with who I was earlier? So these days I do performances around the world. I performed in Houston, Texas, Edinburgh Fringe Festival, it's your local pub down the road. I've been everywhere. Getting on stage and performing in front of people is the one time where surprisingly it's safe enough to be so vulnerable. No one in the room is better than me. We're all going through hardship. The fact that anyone can come up to me after a show and say, you were great. And I think that helps my mental health. Always constantly reminding myself that I'm going through it, but so is that person too. And that's not to invalidate my emotions, but to more allow myself to feel a sense of community. I think especially during the times we're in, I think community grieving, community loss is something we've all felt so deeply from having people we know, diagnosed with corona or the Black Lives Matter movement, and how that has been so in our faces that we can't run away from the emotions that everyone else is feeling. But, I also have my bad days. I have weeks where I'm like, I don't want to reply to a single email. Like, hey, if I lose the job, I lose the job. it's being able to allow myself to feel. You know, like to be on the top of Mount Everest, you have to do the hard work. You have to do the tears. You have to sweat. I think a lot of people in their mental health journeys think it's so linear. Think you go from point A of sadness to point, B of joy. And it's like, Usain Bolt don't just get on the track and run. What I would tell my 16-year-old self is smile and keep smiling because you're really good at that. And you look really good when you smile. Keep persevering and you're going to cry. And when people are around to want to hold you, let them, because you can't get through this life alone. We are made to be held and to hold others, and don't be afraid to talk to people outside of your circle, right? Because there's so many people in this world you're going to meet that won't look like you, that won't speak the same language as you, who didn't grow up eating the food you ate. And yes, as kids, you got made fun of because you ate rice and stew in the lunchroom and it stunk up the place. And all the kids are like, ew, like we eat beans. Oh. And that's when you look at them and you say, you know what? Try the stew. It's better than the beans. It's better. So yeah, my 16-year-old self, just offer the stew to everyone.